Hi, everyone. Looks like we have people joining the event now. So we'll go ahead and let people join for a couple more minutes and get started soon. Welcome, everyone, and happy International Women's Day. People are still joining, but we have a really full program. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. And with that, I'd like to welcome Grameen Foundation's CEO, Zubaida Bai.
Thank you, Kate. Hi, everyone. Happy Women's Day. My name is Zubaida Bai, and I'm the president and CEO of Grameen Foundation. This year, fortunately, the Women's Day has a theme of inspiring inclusion, and this theme is very close to us at Grameen Foundation, as our goal is to create a gender-equal world that is free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination against women. Over 25 years ago, Dr. Yunus created the foundation with the goal of ending poverty, to live up to his vision of putting poverty in museums in our lifetimes. And in those years, we've learned that the fastest and the most sustainable way to end poverty is by investing in the power of women. And we need to invest women now because the need is more urgent. According to the World Economic Forum, it's going to take us about 131 years to achieve gender equality, and we cannot wait that long. If we can create the world's first trillionaire in the next decade, then we should be able to reduce gender gap much faster. We've already taken up a huge challenge of dealing with this stereotype by focusing 70% on women, because 70% of the world's population of 1.3 billion is actually women that are living in poverty and are facing challenges due to climate change. At Grameen Foundation, we don't want to see this as a challenge, but we want to focus on the hope that there is, where we can envision a world that is free of poverty and hunger. A world where every investment made in women will actually boost the global economy. And there is data to show that. We know that if we invest in women's health, we can boost the economy by $1 trillion. And in 15 years, the power of women can add $1 trillion to the global economy overall. Today, as we celebrate the International Women's History Day, we wanted to take you behind the scenes of the work that Grameen does and introduce you to some amazing leaders who are working and ensuring that our vision of ending poverty in our lifetimes is actually executed. And we do that, again, by investing in the power of women. We really face some challenges at the last mile. We believe that in remote locations, women have a really hard time accessing banking and financial institutions. There are biases that hold women back, and there is also lack of support, right? As an institution, we feel compelled sometimes to go support women, create entrepreneurs of them, but really there are there are many challenges and patriarchal norms that hinder this growth and hold women back. So what does Grameen do? At Grameen, we've made it our focus to transform systems for women. By that, we mean that we're not just going to have a gender lens, but we are going to have a laser focus on women. We want to make sure that we dismantle poverty by taking care of gender at the household level. We believe that through household dialogues, we are actually able to dismantle gender and power at a household level. From there, we want to go ahead and create male champions, and we want to ensure these male champions are getting communities ready to be respectful of women and to be accepting of women. We then provide women with the training that is needed, either in climate smart agriculture or in entrepreneurship, to make sure that they're able to achieve their full potential before we start working with the financial institutions, where again, we work with them to dismantle gender and power. And we go on to ensure that they're able to move capital faster to women. Now, changing systems or transforming systems is not something that happens overnight. And if you know anything about the work that happens at the last mile, we also know that social norms change takes sometimes even up to decades. We know that as pioneers in the microfinance industry, just giving a woman a loan is never going to be enough because women are always considered inherently risky, right? And hence, over the last 3 decades, we have not seen interest rates go down for women. For example, a man can take a loan to gamble and default and still get another loan at maybe even a lower interest rate. But for a woman, despite having a high repayment rate, she's considered risky. And hence our approach of transforming systems, starting from the household to communities to training her, is all about de-risking a woman personally and professionally so she can be a better suited candidate for the financial system. But we also understand that the financial systems are not necessarily built to support women, and hence we work with them to dismantle gender and power as well. At Grameen, no matter what we do, we believe that at the end of the day, we have to meet 3 outcome areas. Every life we touch should increase income, should increase agency, and should increase resilience. That's how we believe that a family can walk out of poverty forever. And that's how we believe that we can end poverty in our lifetimes. Because when we do create change, we believe in intergenerational change by investing in the power of women, and not just change to reach scale and to reach millions. So today I'm excited to share some key members of the Grameen Global team who've joined us from Ghana, Alfred and Francis, and from Ecuador, Quito, Amelia. And they will talk to us about what happens at the last mile. And we would like to start with Alfred to discuss the first step of our work, which is the household dialogues. How do we go ahead and dismantle gender and power in households, which is the basis of how we start systems transformation. Over to you, Alfred, if you can introduce yourself and tell us how we do the work in Africa.
Yeah, thank you very much, Zubeida. So my name is Alfred Yabo. I'm Director of Global Program Operations and also lead trainer for our Exploring Power Dynamics training, which I'll be sharing some more information with you today. So with the kind of women economic strengthening work that Grameen does with our local partners in last-mile rural communities across the globe, the importance of engaging households and communities to be supportive of these women stepping into their full power has always proven timely and very useful. As Zubeida mentioned, we see power dynamics and deeply entrenched patriarchal norms play out in the communities where we work in sub-Saharan Africa, in Asia and the Pacific, and in Latin America. Women in these patriarchal societies, generally, they tend to hold themselves back due to the cultural and historical factors. In fact, economic and social systems continue to fail women, and from their own homes to the community at large, women face harmful gender biases. We also see firsthand the adverse impact of power structure on women in rural households and in communities where we work. That is why Grameen starts at the household and individual level to change the harmful systems around women. My background and experience in social development practice and social and behavior change communications have spurred me on in my role with Grameen to develop and manage gender-sensitive social change programs in agriculture, in financial inclusion, and health that achieve results. I work with our program teams across the globe in gender and identity transformative design and project delivery approaches, do no harm and safeguarding analysis, equity-centered design approaches, and more importantly, work with our country teams to scale deep our programs by developing strategies for working at the deeper levels around systems and norms change to shift power dynamics in order to create holistic programming and also work to de-risk the women entrepreneurs and the many women farmers and young women, both personally and professionally, so that they are able to have tools, access, and also support to grow their businesses, increase their incomes, agencies, and resilience for their entire family. Most of our interventions also provide a structured but safe forum for men and women, spouses, and partners to engage face-to-face in a group setting to address usually sensitive topics at the household and community levels, and also develop solutions specific to that particular household or community. Gender equity does not come, it does not come by itself. It needs to be actively promoted. This is exactly why Grameen's intra-household dialogues aim to support families and communities to redefine social norms and share power. Grameen works with local partners to facilitate these dialogues with couples in small groups on topics related to gender norms that impede women's economic participation. On a community level, the dialogues provide a space for women entrepreneurs, their spouses, males, and female community leaders to also collectively explore various topics such as unequal household chores or workloads, and how men and women can work as allies to overcome these challenges together. These gender dialogues are participatory and interactive and provide opportunities for all participants to safely, and I must emphasize, to safely voice their concerns and share their views for the benefit of their households and communities and to solve common problems. Our goal through the household and community dialogues have been to raise awareness of individual roles within systems of power and to change antiquated gender archetypes that hold women back. We work with our local partners to teach women and men the skills needed to engage in constructive dialogue, especially around charged topics like gender and finances that leads to long-term change within the family and community. Through these same household dialogues, we account for men and women's identity and biases to prevent stereotypes. We use creative facilitation methods to foster collaboration and collective responsibilities at the household and community levels, and also provide opportunity for household members to learn from each other. What we have seen is that the household and community dialogues, which use an equity-centered approach, have led to uncomfortable mindset shifts, especially amongst men. Through the dialogues, we are building holistic systems of support for women and an end-to-end approach to dismantle biases, touching every part of her life and provide timely information that combat underlying social and economic challenges brought on by systems of power. We engage with the men in in a woman's life to support her success. We create male champions to support women to dismantle gender roles and on how well women can count on the support of their males and communities, and importantly, safeguard the women we invest in from potentially negative male backlash or other unintended consequences. By bringing couples together and through adult learning principles, we facilitate dialogues on division of household tasks, household decision-making, and get couples to develop action plans for improving communication. Grameen is here to facilitate growth and understanding among couples and have even worked with many polygamous marriages to improve communication. At Grameen, we scale deep while scaling up our programs and work at the deeper levels around systems and norms change and shifting power dynamics. We apply behavioral science to understand and appropriately deal with the psychological and unconscious biases and harmful gender norms through positive male engagement strategies. Grameen uses its expertise in these household and community dialogues to address inequity by reframing and engaging in new ways of thinking and reframing the role of gender in local communities where we work. We are already seeing some very positive outcomes from the household and community gender dialogues. The strategy is helping to challenge inequitable social and gender norms, promoting positive masculinities, improved health outcomes, reducing conflicts and gender-based violence at the household level. At the community level, dialogues are effective instruments for women's savings and other women's self-help groups to build awareness among men and engage partners around barriers women face when it comes to especially managing caregiving chores and the use of financial services. Let me admit that in our experience facilitating these dialogues, tackling mindsets is a critical component of this shift. And changing social norms regarding the role of women in the home and workplace is a critical factor in unlocking further investment in women's potential and power. And this is exactly the gap that Grameen fills. In addition to the household and community dialogues, Grameen also provides customized training and action plans based on location, culture, and needs through our Exploring Power Dynamics workshops. Through this unique training, we are reframing the role of gender in the local and global economy. The training includes activities that lead to building a greater sense of self-awareness through unpacking our identities to better appreciate the privileges and unequal systems of power that come with multiple dimensions of our identity group memberships. We also delve into the intricate workings of power systems that come with different identity groups through an intersectional lens. Through this very rare training, we look more closely at the tendency of us to socially categorize others based on visual identity cues and how that could lead to the development of unconscious biases, judgments, and stereotypes about others, and offer some practical steps through this training on how to deal with unconscious bias through active listening and by being a bit more empathetic. The workshop takes an intersectional lens to how multiple identities operate in an interlocking structure of power relations, creating systems of stereotypes, prejudice, marginalization, and vulnerability. Participants are led through personal and professional reflections on how harmful identity, gender, and social norms play out along intersectional differences in the workplace, at home, and in the community. We challenge ourselves to look beyond the simple comparison of women and men, to look at how poverty and deprivation are experienced differently among women with diverse identity through a power walk activity. We visualize the power walk group exercise by getting participants to walk in someone else's shoes and experience what it feels like to be powerless or powerful based on gender, occupation, education level, disability, age, health, and other intersectional identities, and in the face of different obstacles or shocks. This humbling activity allows participants to become more aware of the power dynamics that exist within and between communities and our organizations, and to ensure those especially lacking power are supported to rise up. The power walk is a way to think critically about how people's different backgrounds and opportunities can in fact result in different levels of power and resilience to barriers to prosperity. It also allows for introspection on the part of those in leadership positions in terms of how our roles can create distance between us and those we are trying to work with. We then explore how dialogue skills can serve as an effective tool in managing conflict and how dialoguing can help us to better understand the multiple identities that we do have. The goal of this aspect of the Exploring Power Dynamics training is to deepen our understanding of how identity group membership and the power dynamics that come with such groups impact us personally and contribute to or undermine our effectiveness in the workplace. We engage in an exercise to explore dialogue with our experiences with power dynamics. We have the opportunity as part of this workshop to dig deeper into our personal experiences and reflect on what it felt like to hold less power with an identity group membership. We conclude the workshop exploring actionable commitments that translate key learnings into practical steps to conduct gender analysis and do no harm and safeguarding analysis. Through the do no harm and safeguarding analysis, we identify potential risk and mitigation strategies to deal with negative unintended consequences of women economic strengthening programs. We also explore how to apply an equity-centered approach to programming and how to truly work at the deeper levels around systems and norms change to shift power dynamics. There is an opportunity to bring this training to a variety of audience. Please reach out to us if you are interested in learning more. There is an upcoming opportunity in Denver, Colorado, for an in-person training on March 25th and 26th. Contact us if you are interested, and we hope to see you in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. Thank you, Alfred. As a student of Alfred myself, I took the training, and I do believe the Power Walk is a very humbling experience. On top of just the entire training program that Grameen offers. Despite having worked in gender for over 2 decades, I think I learned so much from the training program, just in terms of the power that we hold and the unconscious bias that each of us can hold, even without recognizing what that is. We will move on to learn a little bit from our team, Amelia, Alfred, and Francis, who will walk us through the programming of what happens at the last mile, using our Advancing Women's Enterprise pilot that we have done in Ghana, which is our first of transforming systems of gender from end to end. That's how we've established it, starting from household dialogues to community mobilizations, creating male champion, ensuring that the woman is trained, ensuring that the gender and power is dismantled, and ensuring that these institutions can actually move loans faster to women. If any of you have questions about the work we're doing, please feel free to add it in the chat, and we will come back to it as soon as our team shares their experience. Let me start with Amelia. Amelia, you are our Vice President of Programs for our global programs, in fact. Can you explain to us from your perspective why the needs of women living at the last mile go beyond a microloan? And before doing that, if you could introduce yourself and your expertise to everybody here, that'll be amazing. Over to you, Amelia.
Thank you, Zubaida. Appreciate it. My name is Amelia Kuklevitz. I'm our Vice President of Programs, overseeing our programming globally, work very close with everybody on the team, and I'm based out of Quito, Ecuador. Thank you so much for joining us on this International Women's Day. Thanks for the question, Zubeida. We kind of part from the initial assumption that a microloan alone is not enough. So while it's a great step in the right direction and it definitely helps women's enterprise, we kind of break it down into two aspects. So if we're looking at the loan itself, and just as context, Grameen is very used to asking the uncomfortable questions. So this first section is about those uncomfortable questions of understanding how the loan is being used. So as Zubeida had mentioned, one of the aspects that we're looking at is agency. So does the woman actually have full agency to use the loan, or is she being asked to take it out on behalf of someone else, and that may not be invested in her business? Does she have full control of her account to make transactions in and out as she needs for her business? Can she even physically move around freely to be able to sell her products and services, to be able to transact, go into cities or rural areas wherever her clients are? Does she have access to the inputs that she needs to the business? And can she make the decisions around her business, where to invest, what hours to be open, how to diversify her products? So this is kind of all those uncomfortable questions behind the loan that we're looking at. But then beyond that, so that's just one step of our holistic work, is really taking a look at the operating environment. What is the business operating environment? What are those structural issues? So here's where our household dialogues come in, our community engagement, training, education, and partnering with financial service providers comes in. Let's think about entrepreneurship in the US. In what's a relatively efficient system to open and run a business, if you ask from kind of a bureaucratic and process standard. And even in those cases, after 5 years, half of these entrepreneurships have unfortunately failed. Now imagine the women in developing countries where the systems themselves are much more onerous, the bureaucracy is much more complicated, it's much more costly, and they're not even welcome in the door in a lot of places because they are women. So we're looking at those structural issues. And we also recognize that the woman entrepreneur herself has enough to worry about. She's trying to get her business up and running. She's working on pricing, she's working on sales, creating a new market, trying to attract and compete against competition. So Grameen doesn't add to this burden. We're looking to change agriculture systems and financial systems at its core. So we're working on easing their woman's access to markets, making it more simple for her to access inputs, have financial products that work better for her and are de-risking her, and that she has the decision making within structures, whether it's agricultural cooperatives or within financial systems cooperatives, to make her voice be heard at this level. So we're doing all this legwork to ease the way for her. Thank you.
No, thank you, Amelia. So as a follow-on question, Amelia, a lot of people equate our name, Grameen, with lending and microfinance. Can you also tell us the difference between how we partner with financial providers beyond microfinance, and why is this important? And what is the role that we play there?
Perfect. Thanks, Zubeida. Yes, absolutely. And just as well as I've mentioned about transformation, Grameen has transformed over its 26 years. So absolutely in the first 10 years, we were given the important task of spreading Dr. Muhammad Yunus's movement across the globe, particularly through group lending. And over these 26 years, we've been able to deepen and really strengthen the relationships with financial service providers. Now we're really focused on systems change. And the financial system is one of these. It is a potentially archaic or a place of barriers within the financial system. And so we're really about dismantling these. Financial service providers really are in the position as much to open a door for a woman entrepreneur as they are to close them. And so we're really in the business of keeping these doors and these opportunities open for women. We currently work with over 200 financial service providers across the globe in a number of countries. So we really have a very wide but also deep breadth of work with them. And this opening of doors, what does this look like? So in some cases, it's designing a better financial product. Maybe the terms and conditions don't work for a woman. Maybe there's a co-signer that they can't get, and that keeps them from the financial service. It may be training the staff, as Alfred had very well mentioned, on power dynamics, because it can be a relationship barrier. The woman doesn't feel comfortable with her credit officer or doesn't feel comfortable walking in the door. So how can we train staff so that they're more welcoming and more responsive to her needs? We may be helping an institution implement a gender policy so that on a human resources level, there's more equity across and within those organizations. This could also look as Grameen is the person that's creating a financial model so that financial service providers can lower interest rates, and they have the actual numbers and the tools to show that women aren't as risky as they're perceived to be. Or it could be implementing a digital solution. Grameen is helping across the globe to provide facilities in faster transactions in rural areas, which is saving women time and money, as well as the financial service provider.
Great. Thank you so much, Amelia. So moving to Alfred. Alfred, you are our Director of Global Program Operations, and you also lead our Gender and Power Dynamics training program. Taking the role of men in communities we work with, what do you believe that that is a good definition of a male champion? And why is including men so important?
Thank you, Zubaida. So, I mean, in my experience working in last mile rural communities, I know that men themselves are also living, these men live in masculine culture where they are put in boxes, based on restrictive gender norms. Some of these men feel pressured to be the main breadwinner. There is also financial pressure, which is increasing as wages decline, and also the incidence of inflation rising. There's also cultural gender norms and also the lack of positive male role models that cause them to fear being ostracized. Basically, these men are even emasculated if they support their wives to also contribute to household income and decision-making. And I know Grameen, the reason why we do conduct these targeted empathetic conversations with men to address first their concerns on what society would think of them when they support their women. And then by participating in some of these trainings and dialogues and workshops, the male participants connect with other male allies who they can basically lean on to jointly support their female partners. After these engagements, we realize that some of these males start engaging with their spouses in everyday decisions, and also they participate in household responsibilities so that women have time and also support to grow a separate income stream. We are also seeing a ripple effect where the initial cohort of male champions that we train basically sets the agenda for discussion with other men in their communities and beyond, sharing their experiences and also their benefits. This way, we have realized that this is a very sustainable model that cascades organically, and also information and knowledge is also successfully passed down beyond the original group of male champions that we engage. So the question as to why we engage men and boys is because they have their own distinct needs and vulnerabilities also. And because engaging men also can benefit everyone, including women and girls. The reality is that inequalities in social value, power, and opportunities of men and women have provided men with many advantages, while at the same time, men are disproportionately affected by many challenges also. So confronting both issues requires some careful balance. So the reason why these male champions are a significant force in terms of shifting the dials when it comes to dealing with very harmful gender and entrenched gender and social norms in the communities where we work. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. That was really, really humbling to hear that we think about men having distinct needs and how important dealing with their needs and dealing with the challenges that men are facing due to the same patriarchy will actually help us focus more on women. So Francis, over to you. You lead our programs in Ghana. Can you give us some examples of how these household dialogues have led to changes in families? And can you share with us some personal stories from the field?
Okay, thank you, Zubaida. So I'm Francis Saja, just like Zubaida indicated, I'm the program manager of Grameen Women Economic Strengthening and Financial Inclusion Programs in Ghana. And I've been in the space for the past 10 years, connecting last mile female entrepreneurs to systems and information that will catalyze their growth and success of their micro enterprises and build their resilience over time. So going back to what Zubaida asked, with the background provided by earlier speakers about Grameen household dialogues, the key drivers for change through our household dialogues have been localizing the process and providing a safe space to encourage participation from both women and their spouses, which had eventually aided in reframing the power dynamics at the household level. So a key testimony from one of the spouse of our female entrepreneurs indicated that culturally it was awkward for a man to sit publicly or to show affection to their wife publicly. Hence, his difficulty to either sit together with his 3 wives in public or at home to plan. For him, their approach has always been like the command and control system where they give directive to their wives to obey. However, through our community and inter-household dialogues, he now feels comfortable sitting down with the 3 wives to decide on their household goals and also listening to their views. He also further indicated that he now feels comfortable to consult them in any decision making at the household level, especially when there is the need to access any external credit for household expenses. Another testimony that I can share with you is a man also who had 4 wives alluded to the fact that he stands to benefit largely from the women, having support from the women, especially through the community inter-household dialogues that we engage. He now sees the wives being part of a savings group and also participating in mobilizing income and resources to meet household goals in a timely manner, especially when there are emergencies. Hence, the stress and burden for him to single-handedly mobilize all finances for the household has really reduced to the largest extent. To conclude, I would say that our systematic household dialogues have ensured that the rural woman is heard in household decision-making and hence building agency for the rural woman, while at the same time equipping her with systems for entrepreneurship and resilience over time. Thank you, Zubaida.
Alfred, thank you for those stories and testimonials. You know that Grameen has been known for the use of technology. Where in the work that you do at the last mile, you use technology and how?
Thank you again, Zubaida. So our approach to liberate technology in our programming is to ensure digital inclusion for last mile communities and also open them up for linkage to existing ecosystem or networks. In a typical Grameen programming, technology becomes handy upon an action-based learning and rapid needs assessment have pointed to such need. So for instance, in our Advancing Women's Entrepreneurship project in Ghana, Grameen's digital savings groups platform LedgerLink became relevant because financial service providers were reluctant to work with rural savings groups, thus they see them as risky due to lack of financial identities and records. So with Grameen showcasing our LedgerLink, how our LedgerLink could provide a real-time financial records of these rural savings groups to this FSP partner called Baobab Microfinance, Grameen was able to influence this key ecosystem player, that's Baobab, to work with this savings group. So through this technology and other system change strategies, we were able to develop a group loan product for this savings group and also negotiate for a decrease in interest rate from as high as 40% to 13% for these women groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. We'll make a full circle and come back to you, Amelia. As next steps, so we finished talking about our household dialogues, our community mobilization, and creating male champions. Can you talk to us about our third aspect in systems transformation, which is what kind of training and educational support do we provide? And what is the training and educational pillars that we include doing that? Why is it important? And if you can also add a layer of technology use into that.
Great, thanks so much, Zubaida. So, we've been speaking about inequality, and one of the inequality that we've seen is is keeping that gender gap wide open is really the access of to education and to health that women entrepreneurs often face. And so looking at a multi-generational approach, you know, in some of these cases, her parents had to make very difficult decisions about sending their sons and not their daughters to school. And so women entrepreneurs in many cases are coming up with the challenge of a very significant barrier that they faced over their lifetime to education. And so Grameen is specifically honing in and trying to give women entrepreneurs a leg up on the areas of business, business and education and financial literacy. So we're not offering an MBA, but we are helping women succeed and grow their businesses with really practical information. We always contextualize our training so that it's appropriate for the country, the context, the women themselves, so that it's really useful and applicable information. We're also seeing that, you know, the health determinants of women are not necessarily in her favor as well, and they're often facing a double burden of contagious and chronic disease at the same time. So we have a series of education as well on this, as well as increased access to products and services. We like to say at Grameen, whether it's for a financial product or whether it's education, that we use technology with a human touch. And so this also applies to our training and education. We see technology as a great support, but by no means an end-all be-all. Just because a person has a cell phone in their hand doesn't mean they necessarily know how to use it. They may be sharing it with multiple people in the household, and they may not have the data to be able to access training and education. So we're always working to make sure that this is adapted and applicable to women entrepreneurs across the globe. One of the examples of this is our Resilient Life, Resilient Business education training, which we provide in both group settings in person as well as digitally. And it's also a very holistic solution because we are looking at women within their lives as well as within their businesses. So tackling issues around stress or increasing your network or having a 48-hour emergency plan fall under the Resilient Life section. And then under Resilient Business, we're helping women how to market better, how to set a price, how to make sure that they're located in a better place, and helping them grow their business with making calculated investments so that they can further grow and further increase their income. Thank you.
Thank you, Amelia. As Amelia pointed out, I think this is a core part of the work that we do in terms of building resilience for women and making sure that they're ready for any challenges that come their way as we move forward. Alfred, why don't we come to you, just picking on what Amelia was saying, that we're today hearing from our global staff, and there is a huge movement about locally led. But Grameen has always been a grassroots organization, and being and working locally is very important to us. Why is this important from your perspective, and how do we live up to that, Alfred?
Thank you. So we start any kind of program or intervention with the end in mind. So I always say we start with the end in mind, right? And what is the end goal? The end goal is to build sustainability. The end goal is to build shared ownership, is to co-create solutions, and to connect our local partners to their full potential, such that even when typically project funding ends, our local partners are positioned in such a way to carry forward and also scale up while scaling deep. And that is what makes Grameen unique. So we only do not look at increasing the numbers of people who are benefiting from our programs, but also are we considering some of these very soft spots around changing gender norms and all that. So I would say that our approach is a partnership model. We identify and bring to the table the right kind of local partners. And these could be local financial service providers at all tiers. It could be rural banks, it could be savings and loans associations. It could also be even local fintechs. So we do not believe in creating some of these fintech solutions when they already exist, but rather to work with these local entities, build their capacity, give them provide a gender lens to which they relook at some of these innovations. And again, we have a number of established curricula and content that we work through, and typically we adapt these curricula to meet the needs of the local context where we would want to implement. And instead of directly training women in their groups, what we do is to do a trainer of trainers, where we train and build the capacity of our local partners to cascade the training to these women. The whole idea is that when they want to expand, they are in a position to also provide this training also to other groups, even without us. And that is how we work. It's purely through a partnership model. It's a co-creation process, even with the many FSPs, the financial service providers that we work with. What we do is to first understand their processes, their operations, and to identify gaps and work with them through our solution innovation process, which includes using a human-centered design, approach, a business modeling approach to, basically create a win-win scenario, especially for these financial service providers, to basically reduce their risk levels and increase their comfort levels, especially working and providing microloans to these women, and also building in that credit provision, safe credits. So credit that does not lead to negative unintended consequences. Credit that does not perpetually put that woman into a cycle of debts and poverty. So that's the kind of lens that we bring to the table. We orchestrate, we strike the right strategic alliances, identifying the right local partners, bringing them to the table, co-creating the solutions, hand-holding, mentoring, and basically providing the impetus that they need to implement these solutions. So that is how we work. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. And there is a timely question here about a specific example beyond community mindset change, right? And I am thinking more about our community agents becoming agents for MTN in Ghana. Are you able to share that example with the audience here?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have this network of female agents that basically are providing a doorstep of a menu of financial services in last mile rural communities. And again, these same female agents have been trained because we have built a pipeline of private sector service providers who have trained them to also market and sell their products. And this includes solar home kits, it includes micro insurance products, it includes health and hygiene products. In some communities, you'll be surprised there are no pharmacies at all. You need to trek to the next 3 communities to access paracetamol, for instance. So we basically try to understand what the needs are for our communities and then work with our private sector partners, and through our network of female agents, build their capacity in marketing and sales. And then once they sell, they get a revenue from each sale that they make. The whole idea is to build this business in a box model for them and be able to carry on providing the very needed non-financial services. So beyond the mobile money and financial services that they provide to their communities, our agents are unique in the sense that they also provide information around mitigating gender-based violence. For instance, they meet other women entrepreneurs in groups and provide business skills training. They provide digital financial literacy training to them. And when you speak to women, they tell you they prefer to transact with our female agents because sometimes they go and transact mobile money business, but at the same time, they may be facing issues around gender-based violence, and that provides an opportunity to get some help from our female agents. So this is the kind of ecosystem that we build, working with private sector partners, mobile network operators like MTN, and even the government sector agencies, because they also have a mandate when it comes to providing support services for survivors of gender-based violence. So sometimes our agents even link some of these survivors to the government mandated institutions to provide some of these support for them. So this is how basically we are using one stone to kill many birds, and our female agents are making this possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. That's definitely a great example. I was with Alfred and a few other team members in Uganda in a refugee camp, Nachi Valley, where we actually, based on the intervention, we had requested a microfinance institution to come set up a branch in the refugee setting. And now the branch is doing so well in that they're able to provide loans and sustain themselves that they've decided to carry on the work and make that branch a permanent branch, right? That is another example of how we bring financial services to places where they typically will not be available. We are never the grant or the loan providers, but we do ensure that almost all of our programs live beyond our intervention because they are integrated. One, they're built on the needs of the local community, and they're integrated in a way that they live beyond us and are sustainable. Anyone else on the call would like to share any story on how investing in women actually ensures that systems change happens?
Yeah, so one typical example is one, just like Alfred indicated, our cohort of female mobile money agents that we've created, who we've currently also linked them to our existing savings groups, and they serve as community-based trainers to this savings group, and also facilitating digitization for these groups. So one key thing that this female agent has seen is that once she is able to participate in our savings group and also intra-household dialogue activity, and she being the third of four wives of the husband, I mean, through this training and capacity building, there has been an harmony and peaceful coexistence at the household level. And she compares this to what pertains within the community level, where, I mean, several wives around men are always having issues at the household level. And she thinks that this has really ensured that they are able to come together to plan as wives, and also she being empowered, or she being given the opportunity to run a mobile money business to earn some income. She's now able to support her children without even getting help from the husband, because she thinks the husband is overburdened with this four wives. So these are some of the key system changes that we are seeing within our program areas, and this has been sustainable over time. Yeah, thank you.
Got it. Thank you, Francis. Any other stories the Grameen team wants to share?
Yeah, sure, I'll jump in. And so just kind of building off, and also related to the question is that Grameen is often in a position of helping create the strategy as well as the financial modeling in a lot of cases within the organizations that we work with. And that's to both what Francis, Alfred, and Zubaida mentioned, really is part of that long-term strategy, and us not keeping information, but really sharing it. And so in some cases, specifically related to how we've supported women is the gender power dynamics, the exploring power dynamics training that Alfred had mentioned. I have some interesting stories about male staff who decided that women can't drive motorcycles. And so you would think this is a simple change, and you would think, well, that can't be too complicated. But it was even a lack of, it was an issue to lack of access to jobs. And so our field staff, our credit officers, were not even being allowed to enter into the door based on a simple assumption. So I share a very simple anecdote behind months and months of work between exploring power dynamics and working on gender policies and looking at a gender lens within an organization that really helped shape the hearts and minds of some bankers, 30, 40 years in the sector, to say, hey, there is another way that we can do business. And why did we promote this change? Because we've seen across the globe, and Alfred just mentioned it as well, that our women entrepreneurs often prefer to interact with female credit officers. And we've seen success in the messages that they're receiving, success in how they're using financial products and services, just because there's more affinity. Similarly as well in our work in India, we've been working with farmer producing organizations. So these are very also male-led and male-dominated organizations that are controlling access to market and prices. And so we've been also doing a lot of the work to change those slow gender norms that Zubaida mentioned at the beginning, of incorporating women into those producing organizations so they have a voice and so they have a vote, and they can take advantage of an increased income by participating in these schemes. So just a couple of, it's that small change in the end, but it shows lots of work in the back end and how we've been using evidence and what we've been learning throughout our projects to consistently improve.
Yeah, I also have one example to share, and this is so practical. So I recall some FSPs that we work with in Ghana before we introduced this gender lens, through which they could look at how they develop their products, especially to serve last mile rural communities and vulnerable women. We recall, when we interviewed them, they said, look, they develop their financial products and services with the assumption that there are, healthy relationships already existing between couples. That is the assumption, the premise based on which they even develop their product. And that they feel once the man is in the picture, it is very fine. But then through, addressing some of these gender-based violence issues within SME financing and also financing of women, we're able to bring to the fore and give them another, approach to looking at this, in the sense that sometimes women do not even want their males or partners to know that they are taking a loan. And it is for obvious reason, because sometimes there are some issues around abuse. The men are only using the women as a front to, get access to these loans. And sometimes the financial service providers will tell you, through our due diligence process, on paper, we are supposed to physically visit the homes and inspect, some other properties before we can give a loan to a woman. And we say, look, sometimes you are compromising the privacy of some of these women. So sometimes when you bring some of these issues to the fore and give another perspective through which these service providers look at things, gradually, it's not all of a sudden, right? But gradually what you are saying is that there's this mindset change when it comes to how even their products are designed and developed and even marketed to reach especially last mile rural women. And I must also add that the kind of work that Grameen does, we also take seriously the aspect of knowledge management, monitoring, evaluation, and learning. And it is for obvious reasons, because we want to be kind of an influencer, providing guidance to the many local partners in terms of how they design and implement their programs with a gender lens and being sensitive to the intersectional identities of the groups that they serve. So we also collect data, do a lot of analysis, and drive our decisions based on these data. And we make sure that we cascade and share some of these learnings also to local organizations to influence the way they also operate. So I also wanted to quickly add that. Thank you.
Thank you, team, and thank you everyone for taking the time to join us on International Women's Day and celebrate it with us. I think for us, it's very important that we have champions. We can't do it alone. So we are looking for Grameen champions. So if you or anyone you know can think about a person who can be a champion, by which we mean we want them to elevate our voice. We want them to talk about why they believe in our work so they can bring their networks together to support us. Really, systems transformation is hard work. And as Amelia was saying, it's very incremental, but it can have a significant dent in somebody's life when it comes to ensuring that they're able to access capital and ensuring that gender and power are dismantled in their lives. So again, starting from household dialogues to communities, to ensuring we create male champions, to training of a woman, to ensuring that financial institutions are ready for them and are able to move capital to them faster at lower interest rates. This entire systems transformation for a woman's life costs us about $1,000, half of which goes towards systems transformation, and half of it is actually to enable movement of capital faster by providing credit guarantees. So we really believe that champions can help us reach millions of women through this process so that each one of these women walks out of poverty forever, and for generations to come and for eternity, they would never see poverty. And we know that we can achieve this we can achieve this in our lifetimes. And we really hope that you will help us spread the word about being a Grameen champion and reach out to us if you're interested in being one yourself. Thank you again, and happy International Women's Day, everyone. And we really hope that you will join us in investing in the power of women and ending poverty in our lifetimes from this world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.